Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to Access Arabic. Today we continue with our Tajweed workshop series, and we continue with our section on madds, and we are currently up to module number 8, long madds. These are madds that can be madds that can be stretched for 2, 4 or 6 harakat depending on the type of mad, which is exactly what we're going to learn in this lesson. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. So firstly, we need to recap what we learned in the previous video. In the previous video, we mentioned that mad means to stretch letters for 2 to 6 harakat depending on the type of mad. We mentioned that the letters of mad, huruf al-mad, are alif sakina preceded by fatha, ya sakina preceded by kasra, and waw sakina preceded by a dhamma. So whenever we have a fatha followed by an alif sakina, a dhamma followed by a waw sakina, or a kasra followed by a ya sakina, we must do mad, we must stretch. In the previous video, we covered 4 types of mad extended for 2 harakat. Now we will look at longer stretches. So number 1, we have mad aaridh lil-Sukun. So mad aaridh lil-Sukun means a temporary mad for stopping. So if mad tabi'i, which we've covered, is a fatha followed by a alif sakina, a dhamma followed by a waw sakina, or a kasra followed by a ya sakina, is followed by a letter at the end of a word which has been made sakina due to stopping on it, then the mad tabi'i should be stretched for 2, 4 or 6 harakat, and this will be called mad aaridh lil-Sukun. You can choose to stretch it for 2 or 4 or 6, but whatever you choose, you should be consistent. So when you're reciting the surah, you shouldn't stretch one for 2, then the next one for 6, and the next one for 4, then the next one for 2, and the next one for 6. If you do 4, stick with 4. If you do 2, stick with 2. If you do 6, stick with 6. Note, this mad only exists when stopping on a word. Otherwise, it is mad tabi'i. So if we were to have a look at the examples now, inshallah, it will make it easier for you to understand. So here we have sijilin. Sijilin. So by now, inshallah, you should know that here we have a kasra on the jim. So this is jim kasra ji, and it is followed by a ya sakina. So this is mad. This is mad tabi'i, stretched for 2 harakat. So if we were to continue reading the word, it will be sijilin. But because we are stopping on sijil, as you know, we remove any harakat, so it becomes sakin. So because we have mad tabi'i followed by a letter which has been made sakina due to stopping on it, then it is no longer mad tabi'i. It is now called mad aaridh lil-Sukun, and we can stretch it for 2, 4 or 6 harakat. So it can be read as sijil. It can also be read as sijil, or it can also be read as sijil. Remember, as I said, you can choose any of the 3 options, but whatever you choose, you must be consistent with it. Just to reiterate, if we were not stopping on it, then we will not do mad for 4 or 6 harakat. It will just be normal mad tabi'i. ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول. There I did mad aaridh lil-Sukun. And now we will look at the next example, akhihi. Akhihi. As you can see, akhihi, if we continue reading it, this is standard mad tabi'i. We have a kasra here, followed by a ya sakina, akhihi. If we were continuing to read, it is just normal mad tabi'i. But if we are stopping on this letter, then we must make this ha sakin. So we remove the haraka and it becomes sakina, right? So in this case, now it's not mad tabi'i anymore, it is mad aaridh lil-Sukun. So we can stretch it for 2, 4 or 6 harakat. So for example, akhi, or akhi, or akhi. So on the third example, we have al-Azim. So as you can see, we have a kasra followed by a ya sakina. So it is mad tabi'i, but because we are stopping on it, we remove this and we make it sakina. So it will be al-Azim, or al-Azim, or al-Azim. On the fourth example, we have ar-Rahman. So in ar-Rahman, we have here a fatha followed by an alif sakina. So this is mad tabi'i. But because we are stopping on it, we make this noon sakina, and now it is mad aaridh lil-Sukun, 2, 4 or 6 harakat. Ar-Rahman, that's 2 harakat. Ar-Rahman, that's 4 harakat. And Ar-Rahman, that is 6 harakat. Next we have yatasa'aloon. Here we have a dhamma. Here we have a waw sakina. So this is mad tabi'i. But because we're stopping on it, we make the noon sakina. So now we have mad tabi'i at the end of a word which we're stopping on. So it is mad aaridh lil-Sukun. So that is mad aaridh lil-Sukun. If mad tabi'i is followed by a letter at the end of a word which we have made sakina due to stopping on it, then instead of mad tabi'i, it is now called mad aaridh lil-Sukun, and we stretch it for 2, 4 or 6 harakat. But whatever we pick, we need to be consistent with it. And now we move on to rule number 2, inshallah. Now we have mad al-Leen. Mad leen is whenever a waw or a ya sakina is preceded by a fatha. So whenever we have a fatha followed by a waw or a ya sakina, then we do mad leen. It is stretched for 2 harakat. So mad leen is whenever a fatha is followed by a waw or a ya with a sukun on top. So waw or ya sakina. It is stretched for 2 harakat, but if we are stopping on it, then it is stretched for 2, 4 or 6. Once again, it's up to the reader, but whatever you do, be consistent. It's very similar to aaridh lil-Sukun. You'll sense a pattern. So if mad leen is followed by a letter at the end of a word which has been made sakina on it due to stopping, then it can be stretched for 2, 4 or 6 harakat. Similar to mad aaridh lil-Sukun, and whichever you pick, you must be consistent with it. Don't do 2 for one stop, 6 for another, 4 for the next. Be consistent. So let's take a look at some examples. Khawfin, khawfin, khawfin. We have here a fatha followed by a waw sakina. So this is mad leen. Khawfin, this is 2 harakat. But if we stop on it, we make this fa sakina. Now it will be khawf, 2 harakat. Or khawf, 4 harakat. Or khawf, 6 harakat. Next we have al-Bayt, al-Bayt. This is mad leen. We have fatha followed by a ya sakina. So if we are stopping on it, we will make this ta sakin, right? So this will be al-Bayt, 2 harakat. Or al-Bayt, 4 harakat. Or al-Bayt, 6 harakat. And lastly we have was-Sayf. This is once again a fatha followed by a ya sakina. Remember, we said mad leen is whenever we have a fatha followed by waw or ya sakina. So was-Sayf is mad leen. And if we are stopping on it, we will make this fa sakina due to stopping, and it will be read as was-Sayf. That's 2 harakat. Or was-Sayf, that's 4 harakat. Or was-Sayf, that is 6 harakat. And now we move on to rule number 3. Rule number 3. alMadd, alWaajib, alMuttasil. So wajib in Arabic means obligatory, and muttasil means connected. So mad al-Waajib al-Muttasil, or mad wajib as it's often known, is whenever we have a letter of mad. So a fatha followed by an alif sakina, a dhamma followed by a waw sakina, or a kasra followed by a ya sakina, mad tabi'i followed by a hamza. So whenever this mad tabi'i is followed by a hamza within the same word, then we must stretch it for 4 or 5 harakat. It's up to you. But if we are stopping on this word, then we must stretch it for 6. This is called mad wajib. This mad we must stretch for 4 or 5 harakat when reading within the word, and 6 harakat when stopping on it. So let's take a look at example. So here we have waji'a, waji'a, waji'a. So we have kasra here followed by ya sakina. So as you know, this is mad tabi'i, but it has hamza in it within the same word. It's all part of the same word. So this is mad wajib muttasil because it's part of the same word. Just to let you know, you'll always have a little bit of a reminder to remind you that this is an important stretch. That's why you'll always see this little squiggly line. So when we read this, we must stretch it for 4 or 5 harakat. So this is, so if we're reading as part of the ayah, for example, waji'a yawma idhin bi jahannam, waji'a yawma idhin bi jahannam. So that's 4 harakat. 5 harakat would be waji'a yawma idhin bi jahannam. So that's 4 harakat and 5 harakat. Remember, 4 harakat is the amount of time it takes to lift my finger up and down twice. So up, down, that's 4 harakat. 5 harakat is up, down, up, because 1 harakat is the amount of time it takes just to lift my finger up or down. But remember, if we're stopping on it, then it will not be 4 or 5 harakat, it will be 6. So for example, waji, 6 harakat if we're stopping, 4 or 5 if we are reading as part of the ayah. Waji'a yawma idhin bi jahannam. Now if we look at the next example, ulaika, we have here fatha followed by alif sakina. So this is mad tabi'i, right? Ulaika, ulaika. But it has hamza within the same word, as you can see here. So this will be ulaika or ulaika, 4 or 5 harakat. In the next example, sha'a, we have fatha followed by alif sakina. So we know this is mad tabi'i, and it is followed by a hamza in the same word. So this will be stretched for 4 or 5 harakat. But because it has a hamza at the end of the word, if we're stopping on it, it will be 6 harakat. So if we were continuing as part of an ayah, it will be sha'a, or so that's 4 harakat, or sha'a, that's 5 harakat. But if we're stopping on it, then because it has, if we're stopping on it because the word itself ends in a hamza, then we must make this hamza sakina, and it will be sha, 6 harakat. And lastly, we have as-sama'u. We have here a fatha followed by an alif, so that's mad tabi'i, and it's followed by a hamza within the same word. So this is mad wajib. Like we said, if we are continuing the recitation, then it will be 4 or 5 harakat. But if we stop on it because it has a hamza at the end of this word, then it will be 6. So it will be as-sama'u. So that's 4 harakat, or as-sama'u, that's 5 harakat. And if we're stopping on it because it has a hamza at the end, we make the hamza sakina and read it for 6 harakat, then it will be as-sama'. So that's rule number 3, mad wajib. So whenever we have a mad tabi'i followed by a hamza within the same word, we stretch it for 4 or 5 harakat. And now we move on to long mad number 4, which is the cousin of mad wajib muttasil. It is mad jaiz munfasil. So jaiz means permissible, and munfasil means detached or separated. So mad wajib muttasil is an obligatory mad when mad tabi'i is followed by hamza in the same word. That's why it's connected. And mad jaiz munfasil is whenever mad tabi'i is followed by hamza in 2 separate words. In that case, it is jaiz, permissible, and that's why it is separated. So this mad is the cousin of al-mad wajib muttasil. So the letter of mad, fatha followed by alif sakina, dhamma followed by waw sakina, or kasra followed by ya sakina, in other words mad tabi'i, is followed by a hamza in the next word, then it is jaiz, permissible, to stretch it for 4 or 5 harakat, or we can leave it as 2. And let's look at the examples. Inna anzalnahu. So here we have a fatha followed by an alif sakina. So this is mad tabi'i. And now we have hamza in the next word. This is two different words. So in this case, mad is jaiz. It's permissible to make mad. And it is munfasil because the hamza is in the next word. Whereas in mad wajib muttasil, it is obligatory because hamza is part of the same word. It is within the word. So mad wajib muttasil is when mad tabi'i is followed by hamza within the same word. And mad jaiz munfasil is when mad tabi'i is followed by hamza in the next word. Mad wajib is wajib, it's obligatory, compulsory. And mad jaiz is optional, it's jaiz. So we have inna anzalnahu. So because we have mad tabi'i followed by hamza in the next word, we can read this with 4 harakat. We can read this mad with 4 harakat, or we can read it with 5 harakat, or we can suffice with the 2 harakat. So it can be read as inna anzalnahu, 2 harakat, or inna anzalnahu, 4 harakat, or inna anzalnahu, 5 harakat. Next we have alladhi anqada. So we have here kasra followed by ya sakina and then hamza in the next word. So it's not mad wajib muttasil, this is mad jaiz munfasil. We can read it for 4 harakat, 5 harakat, or leave it as 2. So we must still do at least 2 harakat because this is mad tabi'i, this is natural mad, we have to do that. But if we want to extend that for 4 or 5, it is completely permissible. But as I said before, with these mudud, with these stretches, we need to be consistent. Don't stretch for 2 and then 5 and then 4. Keep constantly changing. Just be consistent and stick with 1. So this alladhi anqada, it can be stretched for 4, 5 or 2 harakat. So it can be alladhi anqada, that's 4 harakat. Or it can be alladhi anqada, that's 5 harakat. Or alladhi anqada, that's 2 harakat. Now if we look at the next example, alladhi at'amahum, we have a kasra followed by ya sakina. So this is mad tabi'i. And then we have hamza in the next word. So this, once again, mad jaiz munfasil. We can stretch it for 4 harakats, 5 harakats, or leave it as 2. So it can be alladhi at'amahum, that's 4. Or it can be alladhi at'amahum, that's 5. Or we can leave it as alladhi at'amahum, 2 harakat. And lastly we have yalbathu illa. So we have a dhamma followed by waw sakina. So this is mad tabi'i. And then we have hamza in the next word. So it's mad jaiz munfasil. 4, 5 or 2. So it will be yalbathu illa, or, so that's 4, or yalbathu illa, that's 5, or yalbathu illa, that's 2. So to recap, so we've covered 4 types of long mad. We've covered mad Aaridh lil-Sukun. This is whenever we have a mad tabi'i followed by a letter that we have made sakina due to stopping on it, and this is stretched for 2, 4 or 6 harakat. We've covered mad leen. This is whenever we have a fatha followed by a waw or ya sakina. It's stretched for 2 harakat. But if we are stopping on a letter and making it sakina, then it is 2, 4 or 6 harakat. At stopping. We've also covered mad wajib muttasil. This is when mad tabi'i is followed by hamza within the same word. So mad plus hamza in same word. It is stretched for 4 or 5 harakat. But if stopping on hamza, then it is stretched for 6 harakat. And we've also covered mad jaiz munfasil. This is when we have mad plus hamza in the next word. It's optional to stretch it for 4 or 5 harakat, or we can leave it as 2. But remember the golden rule. The main thing is you need to remember to be consistent. In short mads, they're stretched for 2 harakat. In these long mads, often we have choice. For example, mad Aaridh lil-Sukun can be stretched for 2, 4 or 6 harakat. Mad-Leen, when stopping on a word that you made sakinah, can be stretched for 2, 4 or 6 harakat. Mad-Waajib can be stretched for 4 or 5, but if you're stopping on the hamza is 6. And al-Jaiz can be stretched for 4 or 5, or you can leave it as 2. The main thing is you need to remember to be consistent. So if you're stopping on mad Aaridh lil-Sukun, for example, don't make it 2 harakat in one ayah, 6 harakat in the next, and then 4 in the rest. Be consistent. Consistency is key. You need to be mutawazin, you need to be balanced. So balance and consistency. But with that, we come to the end of this lesson. I hope you've taken benefit from it. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. We also have the Telegram chat that's open and free for public access. If you have any questions, you can ask them there. You can practice your qira'ah and recitation. Inshallah, I can listen to it, or we may have the admins in the future that may listen to it and provide feedback and corrections and things like that. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, as it helps the channel. It doesn't cost you anything, but it means the world to me. And also remember to share this video so we can all share in the rewards. But that's it from me. Take care, and I'll see you on the other side, inshallah. Ma'as salama.